problem with StreamYard, or is your storage full?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are watching this from, and whatever time you're watching this pre-recorded video, welcome back. It's been a couple of weeks, but Dave, we always seem to miss each other, and then we greet each other like long-lost lovers. Probably not, but how are you, Dave? Are you good? You well?
Yeah, I'm keeping well. Big game today, which I'm excited about. You know, hopefully we can get the win and put Palace behind us, but it's going to be a big ask. But look, I'm good. Hopefully you're keeping well, and everybody, all the football heritage fans are keeping well as well.
Yeah, listen, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. It does seem very much, Dave, that we're always trying to put a silly defeat behind us, but that's the life of being a Tottenham fan. Look, we'll go for about 40, 45 minutes. We've got Man City tonight, Villa on Sunday. We'll dig a little bit into the Palace loss. Couple of comments have come out in the last 24 hours from the likes of Ange. Paul O'Keefe said a few things about players that we could have got but didn't because of wages. So I don't think you've seen those comments yet. I've only seen them about 10 minutes ago. So we'll look at all of that. But look, Dave, look, I saw your show this week, and you were very much centering it around Tottenham's away form, and you know why. So I watched that show. So sorry to make you repeat that, but
No.
In your opinion, how much of a worry is this away form turning into? And why are we so different on the road than we are when we play at White Hart Lane?
Do you know what? The way form is concerning. You look at it this year, we dropped points at Leicester, dropped points at Newcastle, dropped points at Brighton and Crystal Palace. So It's clear going away from home, we have huge issues. But I'd argue that stems longer than Postecoglou. I think we've had the same problems under Jose and under Conte. You go back and look at some of the cut defeats under them and stuff like that. A lot of them have been away from home. And to be honest with you, Savva, what I put it down to is leadership within the dressing room. I think when you go away from home, you have to have leaders who set the example, who, you know, get into other people's ear traveling away from home, but also, you know, lead by example on the football pitch, and also communication on the football pitch. It's absolutely non-existent. And for me, it's one of the golden rules. You have to have communication on the football pitch if you're going to go on and be successful, win things, if you're going to walk into the Lions' Den like away from home and go and win things. Also, I'm starting to become of the opinion that I think going away from home, we can't afford to play two number 10s. I think we have to play two pivots and play one number 10 going away from home, just to give us that bit more solidity. Because when we're at home, teams come to Tottenham Hotspur and almost will sit back. They'll almost sort of gear up for it and have a plan for it or whatever, you know. But when we go away from home, I don't think we get shown as much respect. And away from home, you actually have to fight for the right to earn to play, like Crystal Palace when you go into Selhurst Park. And I don't think we were set up to get into the fight in the first place, and to be able to, you know, get into the game away from home, to be brutally honest. But I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a Postecoglou issue. I think it's one that's been at Tottenham for quite some time.
Do you know what? I think you're spot on. I remember us having this chat maybe a month or so back where we said that the whole Madison Kulusevski kind of experiment, we said it's going to work against teams in a big way, but also going to not work in a big way. And I think what we meant by that at the time was, in these games away from home where teams have 2 3-man midfields that get stuck in, like Palace did. Wharton was exceptional. Learned very good until he went off. And then even Will Hughes came on and got his foot in, made it a battle. And in those games where teams make it a battle, it's where you realize we can't play the 2 number 10s, whatever you want to call them, right? You can't do it, and you need a bit more solidity. And this is something that he's going to have to figure out, because if you want to get Madison into the team and Kulusevski into the team at the same time, do you risk Johnson not being in the team and have Kulu more on that floating from the right? Does Madison float from the left? These are the things that he has to work out. But I'm glad you said something you just said there, Dave. It leads on very nicely. It's as though I've paid you to ready for the next stage. This morning, these comments are doing the rounds. Now, let me get rid of this banner. These comments are doing the rounds, and I've only just seen them, so I haven't really had too much time to digest them. But it's Ange talking about what you just said, leadership, and he said we're struggling in difficult moments because we lack some maturity in leadership. Now, there's two ways of dealing with that. You can either go and buy it, acquire it, or you can wait for it to develop within your own group. We've gone down this way because I think it's the better way for me. But with that process, it takes time and experience. I'm not going to read this all, by the way. He says, you've got to go through tough times. I can't artificially create tough times for the guys to see how they respond. They have to come at us. It's not nice and it's not pleasant and no one enjoys it. Certainly, I certainly don't, but it's necessary. Now, before I won't read the rest of that, but Dave, I find this. I don't know how to take this at the moment. It's like we said in the summer, we need some experience. We need some leaders. At the time, Ange was saying things like, there's no reason why we can't challenge. Now that we've not started the season well, it's now pivoted away from that. And it's, but we've got no leadership. But we did that by design. I've talked a lot. What do you make of all that? And is it a little bit kind of pot kettle black where if you knew you needed the leadership, you could have bought some of it, right? What do you make of all that?
Look, for me, Savva, when I look at them sort of quotes and when I look back at what he was saying over the summer about trying to challenge, I think him putting out there the trying to challenge is trying to bring a different mentality to Tottenham, not only to the players, but also to the ownership. And I do think a part of that was to try and put pressure on them to bring in some more sort of experienced players for Postecoglou to work with. Now that the window's closed, there's not much more Postecoglou can do. Now, he can sit here and pull out the transfer window all he wants. Conte done it when in the middle, in between transfer windows, and look what happened. It's not really going to serve any purpose. It's going to cost him his job, and he knows that. So I can understand why he's not going to sit there, come out and berate it. And I think he's at the point now where he's trying to navigate the situation, and that's why he's saying this is the process we've chose to gone through in terms of waiting for leaders to emerge. Because look, the way I see it, when a football club has a director of football, I think they're there to bring players more in for the football club and the style of philosophy that they want to play, rather than bringing in everything that the manager wants. And I do think, and I've said this, I do think Postecoglou was let down in the summer to a certain degree. I don't think he was expecting as many youngsters to come in here as they did. But look, a lot of our away form does come down to leadership. We've got a whole new squad. But when you have more or less a whole new squad, it does take time for them leaders to emerge. Eventually, someone's going to get pissed off in that squad with these sort of results like Palace keep happening. And eventually, someone's going to come out and start holding standards around and start holding people to certain standards. But unfortunately, what we're doing now is paying the price for a transfer window that I tried to highlight, and most people told me I was being negative.
No, look, you and I, we're gonna have no disagreement on the transfer window side of things. I said it all summer. People thought I was going in 2-footed and overboard. I said it at the time. If you keep buying kids, don't expect to win things. Like, don't expect to get better if you just buy kids. For me, the biggest thing though, Dave, is look, whether this is on Postecoglou, whether this is on Daniel Levy, whatever, whether it's on Johan Lang, the 11 that he puts out there isn't as young as people make out. Like when we're talking about no leaders, if you think Sonny is 32, 33, Dominic Solanke is 27 years of age. James Maddison is 28 years of age. Basuma, Bentancur are 26, 27 years of age. Romero, Vicario. Yeah, you could say Brennan Johnson's 24. But I mean, even then, it's not like we're playing 5 17-year-olds, 5 18-year-olds. So for me, I do feel like it's now going to be, this is going to be the narrative. This is going to be the excuse. But it goes to show, Dave, I think a lot of people went very early in the summer with their praise for Gray, Bergvall, Odeber, Yang. And I think it's gone to show now that, yes, we are severely lacking in men, in leaders, in experience. Now, off the back of that, Dave, I literally saw this as we were loading up the show. I don't know how much truth is in this, but look, this has come out today from Paul O'Keefe saying that Tottenham could have signed Conor Gallagher, who Ange wanted, but didn't because of wages. And Spurs also decided against Eberechi Eze because of wages. Now, look, Dave, we have to be careful here because it's difficult to take something like this and run with it, that this is 100% true, this is gospel. However,
It's
it does
accurate.
very much scream Tottenham Hotspur to not buy Gallagher and Eze. And I'm going to ask you this question. I want to know all your feelings on, did we not get them because of wages? But had this midfield have gone and bought Gallagher, who I think is perfect for the way we play, not the perfect footballer, but perfect for this style, and Eze, who I think is a game changer, how different would things be if those two were in our midfield now?
I think it would be a massive difference, to be brutally honest with you. Eberechi Eze is a fine footballer. If we pulled him from Palace, we wouldn't have lost the other day on Sunday. You know what I mean? With that flick from Mateta, that moose up front. You know, the guy who's as big as me and can't fucking move when he scores against us is absolutely embarrassing. But Eze is an absolute game changer. And look, one thing I've been screaming out all summer across that forward line, even when we sign the youngsters, is there's a lack of quality there, and it's going to come back to bite us at some point. And I think to a certain degree, at times it is coming back to bite us. And someone like Eze would just give that constant quality. Every time you go forward, get him on the ball, he's going to give you that constant quality. But not only that, he gives other people around him a kick up the ass as well, and you might even drag better out of them. In terms of Conor Gallagher, look, I personally didn't think he would have been the right man to come into Tottenham Hotspur, but I've always said, because of his all-energy sort of midfield style, Ange Postecoglou needs that in his midfield. It's clear that his midfield requires legs, people to be able to get around, challenge, but also when you're on the ball, have that little bit of quality. So I can understand it. But you know what? I think there's a lot of truth to them rumours. It's not the first time in my years supporting Tottenham Hotspur, that players have come out and said, or journalists have come out and said, you know, didn't get the deal over the line because of wages or because of the structure of the deal or because of a 5 million here or there. I'm absolutely fed up with it. And this is where I said in the summer, I think we pulled the reins on Postecoglou a little bit in the summer. I think the fact that he came in brought us so far. I think the club switched up tack. They brought in Johan Lang, who I have serious questions about, by the way.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people didn't like Paratici, and I had some disagreements about that. But the guy knew how to get deals over the line. Even if we didn't have money left in the budget, he bought players in here on a we'll take now, pay later basis and stuff like that. And he got deals done. When you look at this guy, I questioned over the summer, the reason why we ended up with the likes of a Gray, you know, a Kim Min-hyuk and all, is to save face because the guy couldn't get deals done. He screams to me over Steve Hitchens, someone who's going to constantly make excuses for not getting deals over the line. For me, we need to put the power back in Paratici's hands because he was the one that was signing decent players to this football club. And I think we've changed tack with Johan Lang. Quite personally, I think a lot of them let Postecoglou down. When I look at him now, he looks a bit dejected. He looks a bit pissed off. He's becoming snappy. And I have no doubt part of that is because he's sitting there going, if they would have just done what I done in the asked for in the summer, done more of what I asked for in the summer, we wouldn't be in this situation, he probably feels. So I think it probably correlates. I think he's been let down personally.
Look, and this is where I soften my stance slightly. You know my feelings on Ange Postecoglou. I don't rate him as a manager. That's not going to change.
We need to get into that.
But this is where I soften my stance on any manager at Spurs, because whether I rate him or not is completely different to whether or not I feel Daniel Levy and Lang have done what the guy needed. Again, when I look at Conor Gallagher, it was interesting. In the summer, I looked back at last year and I looked at a whole host of stats for midfielders. And Conor Gallagher is one of those where, is he the most silky footballer you've ever seen? No. Is he that flair player that people want to see with all the flicks and the tricks and the skills? No, he's not. But do you know what? For nearly all of the metrics for midfielders last year, Gallagher was in the top 5 in the league of pressing, tackling, headers won, clearances, distance covered. And I remember looking at that and thinking to myself, that is everything that a kind of gung-ho, all-action team needs. Unfortunately, Bentancur is in and out. Bentancur, you know, has great games and then has anonymous games. Basuma's the same. Papasar's the same. What you know you're going to get with Conor Gallagher is every game he's going to come off and he's been in a war. Every game he's going to come off and he's sweated blood for the badge and the shirt. So to not get him and not got Eze, if they were both the manager's number 1 and 2 choices, that for me is where I do feel sorry for Ange. And that again shows me when people want to talk about title challenges and how far can we go. This is why I don't think very far, because in the summer, Dave, I think was it something like 30 million in wages saved?
Like, yeah, we lowered the wages dramatically. The amount of high earners we got off the books since Postecoglou's arrived, and you know, even let's not forget Adoji and Papamatasar's new contract deals. We were all surprised to see how little they were on, and I can guarantee you they haven't gone on to, you know, 100 grand a week or anything like that either. So you know, we've saved a lot of money in terms of our wage bill.
But it goes to show, right, let's take Ange out of this for a moment, because otherwise it does sound like I'm attacking him. It goes to show that we've moved into this super duper stadium. We've got all this revenue, but the aim is still about balancing books rather than challenging on the pitch. And whether people love Levy, hate Levy, we can point the good things, the bad things, whatever it is. That summer window, when I had people coming onto my shows going, "Oh, but this is a youth project," and sure, but we must have the only youth project in the world, Dave, where the youth aren't actually playing. Like, you know, for me, if that is what you're going to do, if you're going to lower the wage bill by 30 million, I'm sure it's probably not bang on 30, but for the purposes of this call, if you're going to lower the wage bill by that much, if you are going to tell the world that we are in a youth project, don't keep Ben Davis. Don't re-sign Timo Werner. Don't keep Fraser Forster. If it's truly a youth project, I want to see Archie Graham Bergvall playing week in, week out. Because if I see Archie Graham Bergvall playing, if I see that the backup centre-half is Ashley Phillips and not Ben Davis, then you can turn around and go, all right, I don't agree with this, but I see what you're doing. Problem is, Dave, or I'm going to ask you this, is the problem that we're seeing a halfway house? It's kind of like we bought a lot of kids. They only get minutes in games where, let's be fair, it's against European minnows. What's going on, Dave? What are we? What are we trying to be?
Do you know what, Savva? Personally, I think Daniel Levy's reverted to type. I think he's gone back to what served him well in the past when he was bringing this club in towards the top 6, which was buy young, buy talented, develop them, and then ultimately, you know, they dragged us so far, and then they were sold on for huge profits. I think he's reverted back to that type, because in years gone by, he's brought in the likes of your Celsos and Umbeles, you know, people like that on high wages, high money, and it hasn't worked out. And he's an accountant. He's not going to keep taking them risks for them not to work out. He's going to revert back to type at some point. And I think that's what he's done. I think that's why he's ended up bringing in someone like Johan Lang, because he doesn't want to give Paratici much money to go out there and bring in some of the players that he was. I think he's brought in Johan Lang to come in here and work that sort of youth system, that youth market and stuff like that. Because we didn't bring him in here to improve our fortunes, because Aston Villa sacked him to improve their fortunes. So, you know, that's my problem with Johan Lang coming in here. But when it comes to the youth project, look, I'm the first one to sit here and say, I love a couple of youths around the squad. I think it's always good. I think it's healthy. It keeps your senior players honest. It keeps them on it. And at times, if a youngster's going to do it, everyone else has no excuse sort of to follow. A bit like Mikey Moore against Alkmaar in the second half, for instance. No one else was at it. He picked up the ball. He started going, and all of a sudden, you know, people started to follow. We got the goal we needed. We ended up going to win the game. So I'm a big proponent of that. But I said it in the summer. We're signing a lot of young players with not great experience. I have no problem coming in, filling in on Europa League squad and filling that out, no problem. But we needed to improve our first 11. We didn't do that with a lot of signings. The only one that you would argue improved the situation was Dom Solanke. But again, many people have their problems. Did we go after the right sort of player for that position to really propel us on the pitch? When you look at the summer transfer window, we neglected a lot of issues. And the ones that we did address in terms of first 11 or trying to bring in experienced players, we missed the mark, quite frankly. And, it was all set by bringing in Timo Werner. Bringing in Timo Werner to start the window when barely anybody in the world's interested. That's one they could have pivoted to on the last day of the window if they didn't get other deals done. And if they came out and said, look, couldn't get other deals done, we brought him in for the rest of this season to cover. We'll look at it again next season. I think many fans would have said, do you know what? Okay, you tried. That sort of reason, but I can understand that. We've pivoted. We brought in extra cover, whatever. But to bring him in on the first day of the window at 185k is criminal. And then to have the audacity to turn around to someone like Eze and say, we're not going to pay your wages is even worse. So I think it's a crime against football, quite frankly.
Do you think the Eze thing as well? See, with the Gallagher one, I agree. With the Eze one, I think there's going to be a little bit more to it because of the fee it would have taken up front to get Eze out. So I think that one's probably, we don't want to pay the wages and we don't want to pay 50, whatever it was, million up front.
But then is that not saying we don't want to challenge this year then?
Mate, I'm not making you right. I'm not making it right. I agree with you. For me, if you had gone out and bought, and I don't just mean an Eze, if Spurs had gone out this window and gone, you know what, we're buying Eze, we're buying Gallagher, we're buying, for me, Gyökeres, I think that's a proper strike. Not again, I'm not having a knock at Solanke. I think he's okay, but I think if you had gone out and bought Eze, Gallagher, and Gyökeres, I turn around and go, okay, we're serious. Okay, do I think we're going to win the league? No, but we're going in the right direction and we are a serious football club. When I see Bergvall, Gray, Yang, Odeber, I sit there and I think, like you said earlier, Dave, we've seen all this before. We did it with Huddleston, Dawson, Aaron Lennon, Danny Rose, Cole Walker. Now, listen, some of these players, no doubt, will go on to be very good Premier League footballers, hopefully at Tottenham. But the problem is when we've got comments like that from Ange saying, so we don't know whether he's been forced to say that or whatever it is, but are we just going to keep sitting around and waiting then for players to get senior? Like, how long does that take? And if we're going to talk about players need time to become senior to handle those situations, Dave, let's look at it. Against Crystal Palace, we haven't even got the excuse of saying that we brought on a Bergvall and a Gray. We didn't. We brought on senior pros. We brought on people like Bentancur and Richarlison. Now, whatever you think of their ability, they're senior pros. So for me, I think if you're going to go with this narrative of we need time to grow as a team together and it's going to take years, one, get rid of Richarlison and Werner and Davis and Forster. Get rid of these footballers then and play the kids. And two, if you're going to do that, at the same time, stop saying things like, there's no reason we can't challenge and I sign off every player that comes in. That, for me, would pacify the situation. And I turn around as a fan, Dave, and say, you know what? I now, rather than not liking this manager, I now feel sorry for him. But we're always a halfway house.
Do you know what, for me, to a certain degree, I feel like when managers come to talk, I feel like managers at other clubs, you can sort of take what they say in press conferences and sort of, take it as gospel. I think at Tottenham Hotspur, and what I've seen with Conte, Jose Mourinho, Pochettino to a degree, I've left my head scratching at press conferences sometimes. And I think at Tottenham Hotspur, they're the only managers that have to come in here and play 5D chess in press conferences, where they know that there has to be some sort of element where they're going to say something that the fans are going to love, but also say something, not say something that's going to piss off Daniel Levy. So, and what I'm saying is, a manager can't come to Tottenham and put their proper thoughts out in the press conference. They have to play 5D chess. I'm often left, to be honest, it gets to a point where I don't really watch much press conferences anymore because for me, it's just a PR exercise. I feel like the manager's put in a lose-lose situation regardless. So I don't really take too much from it personally because I do think a lot of managers have to play 5D chess. Like, for instance, I've no doubt Postecoglou will want to sit there and go, look, mate, I highlighted it in the summer. I asked for this, this, and this. I got this, this, and this. But as soon as he does that, he's bounced out of the job and we're on to the next manager. So there is an element that he has to strategically come across with these answers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. Again, it just goes to show to me that when people use these buzzwords, Dave, project, process, rebuild, I don't see it. And the reason I don't see it is a rebuild isn't just buying loads of 18-year-olds, not playing them and hoping in 3 or 4 years we're going to be great. You know, a rebuild's got to be simultaneous. You've got to buy for the first team and for the future. And unfortunately, we seem to have forgotten about building for the first team. And I think what has frustrated a lot of fans, I can only speak for me, Richard Savva, but I think I speak for some others. When if we're going to do this, we might as well be at White Hart Lane, Dave. Like,
I agree.
You know, the fact that we've moved the stadiums and we were told that the new revenue was going to allow us to act differently. Well, we're not acting differently. We're acting the same as before. And then we're paying like £40 million for kids like Archie Gray. I'm not knocking him, but surely if you want a youth project, that 40 million could buy you 4 18-year-olds with good scouting. That buys you 4 instead of 1. So I don't understand anything about this club anymore. I really don't.
No, look, I completely agree with you. You know, I sort of get disillusioned at times with the stadium. I got disillusioned when they sold Harry Kane, because when Daniel Levy built it, I was told this is so we can generate more revenue, so we can hand out wages to match the best teams in the world and keep our best players at this football club. And then we go in and cash on our best player. Don't understand it personally. But I agree with you. Look, if we were going to go back and resort back to this sort of type, we may as well stay at White Hart Lane. We had Walker, Rose, Ben Modric, Bale, Aaron Lennon, players that we all picked up very young and brought into Tottenham Hotspur and went on to develop. So what we're seeing is absolutely nothing new. Personally, and I've said this before, I think Daniel Levy looked at Ange, goes, finished 5th last season, add a couple more players, he's going to finish higher up than that. You know, he'll get inside Champions League football. That'll appease everybody. And I've said this before, Daniel Levy will never commit the funds to make a manager push on and go on and challenge for a title, because he doesn't want that pressure season in, season out. Once he delivers one, the demand is there from absolutely everybody across the board. After that, they will not accept anything else, you know, and there'll be a lot of questions asked. Well, we've done it once, why aren't we doing it again? He doesn't want that pressure. So he'll always do enough to keep you in and around, but without delivering, and hope that we can pick up a trophy or two along the way, a domestic cup or, you know, a Europa League to appease the fan base. That's the plan.
If ever a club needed new ownership now, whether or not people like Levy, whether or not we want to talk about how financially sound we are and what he's done with the stadium, it's all become a little bit dull now, hasn't it? In terms of not me and you, but, you know, we've been having this conversation as fans for over a decade now of he's been here a long time. What's changing? Well, once we get Champions League football, it will be different. Nope. Once we get the new stadium, it will be different. Nope. Once we start getting the revenue from the new stadium, nope. And it's not that we're not spending money, but if we are going to constantly buy kids and pay them peanuts in terms of football salaries, you're not going to compete. You're simply not going to compete. But look, let's move away from that, Dave. And look, we have got a little game tonight. Manchester City at home. It's the same as last year, but last year's was the FA Cup. When it came out, I see a lot of people, Dave, that I think they do that kind of false pretending thing where they go, yeah, I want City. And I'm sitting there going, I absolutely do not want Man City in any way, shape or form ever. This is a real odd one, Dave, because both managers have been a little bit guarded and a little bit secretive in their message before this game as to what type of team they're going to put out on the pitch. Pep's talking about putting out a B team, but the problem is Pep hasn't got a lot of players fit. Like, he's got a lot of first team injuries. So I don't think he can actually rotate that much. Ange is talking about, well, we're going to do what we've done in other cup games, which would mean Dragoshin, Davis, Bergvall, Gray, players who I think will get gobbled up by Man City. This is going to be real nail-biting stuff until we see the teams, isn't it? What's your feeling for tonight?
Look, first of all, when the draw came out, do you know what? I had a sinking feeling sitting there with the draw. I just had a sinking feeling. I sort of, look, I'm of the opinion, I think the draws are rigged, quite personally. I think they're always going to, every round, throw up a massive sort of fixture to generate the money and the interest in the competition. I just sort of knew once we got through that round, we were going to face one of the big six. But look, when it comes to Man City, I think both managers are probably sparring each other right now, trying to undermine each other, trying to trick each other into maybe selecting a weekend lineup, because They do know each other, Postecoglou and Guardiola. They were both in the City group, and Guardiola was the one that recommended Postecoglou to the Celtic owner when he had a chance meeting with him for the Celtic job. He's the one that got him that job, so they do know each other. And I just wonder is Postecoglou saying, we're not going to put out a full-strength team, so Guardiola sort of goes weak, and then all of a sudden our full-strength team is out there. That'll be absolutely great. That's something Sir Alex Ferguson used to do, mind games like that. But you know what? Coming into this game, though, Savva, I think it's a huge game for Postecoglou and Tottenham tonight. And before people scream and scratch at me, hear me out. I think most Spurs fans sort of said, look, don't really give a toss about the league this year. I'm sick of the league. We don't really get too much for it rather than just ups and downs. We want a cup competition. I feel if he goes out tonight, that's one cup competition off the table. I think a lot more people turn on Ange Postecoglou after tonight. Personally, I still Ange in. I really like Ange Postecoglou. I like what he's trying to do. And I do think there are elements that are beyond his control that do come back to bite him. Don't get me wrong. I do think he was tactically outclassed by Palace the other day. I do think he should have spotted that 25 minutes in and started hitting the channels or hitting Solanke to push Palace backwards. We didn't do it. But I feel like tonight's a huge night for Ange Postecoglou, Sav. I can't lie. And that's coming from a guy that really likes Ange Postecoglou. I can already see when we lose games. Like I said, Spurs fans said they didn't care about the league, but when we lose, everyone goes after Ange Postecoglou. So I'm not quite sure they don't really care about the league.
Yeah.
But if we go out of a cup competition, I don't know myself, one thing the majority of the fan base do not like is to be knocked out of cups. When he first walked in and he changed the 11 for the Fulham game last season, everyone went berserk. Everyone blamed him. Even people that like Ange Postecoglou and still want him here now. Everyone went berserk. Spurs fans will not tolerate going out of cups.
Well, this is the thing, Dave. And I keep being asked, right? I keep being asked over the last week or so, what do you reckon the Man City score will be? And the reason I won't give a score prediction, Dave, because I have no idea what the lineups are going to look like. If Man City goes strong, I obviously think Man City will beat us whatever team we put out. However, if Pep Guardiola starts putting out 4 or 5 18-year-olds and we go fairly strong, I would fully expect us to be beating an understrength Man City team that, let's be fair, Man City, if Man City go out tonight, no one really, Man City don't care. This is a warm-up for Man City, right? Man City, they care about trophies that get given out in May. The Champions League, the FA Cup, and the league, right? The big thing here for me is if Ange gets knocked out of this cup early, he was knocked out the FA Cup early last year. He was knocked out the League Cup early last year. This would be 3 domestic cup competitions in a row where we've not made it past the second round of that cup. You know, I know it's the fourth round, but you're not second stage of the trophy. Look, it's never easy. It's Man City, right? And what you do know is that Pep's going to have a plan. You know that. This is why Pep is the best manager and the best coach in world football. He's going to have a plan. For me, what's bigger than going through or not tonight is to see can Ange adapt? When this is the biggest team we've played all season. Whether or not they've got 5 or 6 players injured and they rest another 3 or 4, this is the biggest team we've played all season. It's at our ground. It's under the lights. The fans are going to be up for it. This is where we want to see, even if we get knocked out, Dave, surely as fans, what we want to see is that the game we gave 100% commitment, that bodies were being thrown in front of shots, that we weren't giving them opportunity after opportunity. And that, for me, is really, really important to see tonight. And that is why I think, for me, Ange should just go full strength. I don't see any reason for him to rotate at all. We're not playing till Sunday. You got 4 days off. I don't see the need for him, Dave, to put in, no offense, the Grays, the Bergvals, the Davises. For me, I think you've got to go full strength.
No, 100%. And just on what you said there quickly about City as well, let's not forget, it doesn't really matter what team they're going to put out there. They all have that winning mentality and they're all going out there to win. So it doesn't, is it really a weakened side? Yeah, on paper compared to a lot of the talents they have, but a lot of their second string would be good enough to finish in the top 4 in the Premier League anyway. So, I don't really buy into that too much unless I see a whole academy put out there. Then you'd say, okay, we should win. But Look, I would make one change tonight, and I would go double pivot in the midfield. I'd drop one of Kulusevski, one of Maddison. I don't really care who it is. I think one of them need to be dropped. We need to get Sarah into that midfield. We need legs in there. And the other one I would make.
Can I tell you who I drop, Dave? Just quickly, can I tell you who I drop? I wouldn't drop either of them. For me, in a game like this, where you're going to be in a battle, Johnson is the one I wouldn't play. I would almost, for this game, sacrifice playing Kulu a little bit wider right, but tucking in and using his legs and his engine. Because the problem with Johnson, when he's not scoring goals, he doesn't really offer a lot. Yeah. Kulusevski, even if he's floating in from the right, he will come into the middle, he will get involved. And Maddison, for me, he's going to play those through balls that are going to take the man. Sorry, I interrupted you, but
no.
That's what I would do.
I fully hear you. But I think with Son not being available tonight, I think we've no option but to play Johnson. And look, don't get me wrong, if it's Johnson, Werner either side, I'll worry a little bit because Man City will press us. It could be like Palace, if we can't play through them, are we going to have that out ball? I revert back to Newcastle at their place last year. Vicario ended up resorting to trying to play a long ball. Johnson was standing in behind Dan Burn all evening, didn't want to know. Timo Werner, the other side, the same as well. So I do worry about that. And I also worry, neither of them are provider of chances. So, I worry where the goals are going to come from in that regard, unless we can completely open City up and everyone has a really good game. And the other change I really would make is Bentancur for Bissouma. I think Bissouma is way too erratic in that midfield. I think he draws way too many people onto him and takes way too much out of the ball. And another thing that he's starting to piss me off.
Wouldn't you, in this game, I would put both Bentancur and Bissouma in with, I think you've got to pack them in.
I would go Sarr and Bentancur personally. The reason why I said Bentancur is I think Bentancur is a lot more assured and a lot more tighter in possession than someone like Bissouma in that number 6. And against City, when we get the ball, we can't really afford to give it away. So I would prefer to have Bentancur there. But I would bring Sarr in just for that industrious nature. Someone that's willing to get around the pitch, turn the ball over, be combative.
Yeah.
I just think Bissouma, I'm just not sure Man City's the right game for him personally. I think he takes too much risk in a game like this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because Spurs, we're naturally a team that have a lot of possession. Man City are the masters of having possession of the football. Obviously, it's slightly different nowadays because they don't have Rodri in the team. I'd love to sit here and say that that's killed them completely, but they're actually top of the league, haven't lost a game all season. Man City, this is a worrying stat, and I know this is a cup game, but in the league, Man City are 32 Premier League games unbeaten, and they've taken 84 points from a possible 96. So, look, it's going to be interesting because Spurs had really good games against Man City when we were sitting back. Now, under Jose, under Conte, under Nuno, those games where we stifled City. That's what City don't like. City do not want people who put 10 men in front of them. This will be interesting because I think the moment you open up against City, Savinho, Bernardo Silva, Foden, Haaland, these players will punish you. This isn't like when Palace got in behind us on Sunday and missed chance. Man City will punish you. So I'm more than anything for tonight, Dave. I'm just intrigued to see the lineups. That, for me, is going to be where I go, right, we're going to win, we're going to lose, we're going to draw, whatever it may be. I just think that there's no reason for us to go. I don't think there's any reason for us to go with a weakened team tonight. I get why Man City do. Man City are going to be in 4 competitions till the end of the season, right? We're, with every will in the world, we're not. So, for me, I would go strong. I wouldn't worry too much about what they're going to do. But I do think if we start seeing Davis in, Forster in, Bergvall in, Gray in, I think if we
I don't think I'll watch it personally. I don't think I'll watch it.
That's where I will truly, truly worry. And people can spin it and say, oh, it's good for Bergvall and Gray to get this test against City. But it's a game where Man City won't let Bergvall and Gray get near the football. So, it's going to be interesting, Dave. But because of that, I can't sit here and give a score prediction. I don't know about you.
I'm not going to sit here and give one. To be honest, Savva, I don't really care about a score prediction heading into this game. I want to see a complete different attitude to what I've seen Sunday. It is nowhere near good enough. I have never, ever in my life watched the Tottenham performance as bad as that, where we couldn't string two bloody passes together. And what sums it up? Edozie and Porro spent so much time on the opposition's box. They couldn't get out of our own half. They couldn't get out from our own box. That sums it up for me. Savva, can I ask you a question just quickly, my man?
Always.
Look, one thing I have resonated with most people, and I know you're of a similar opinion, that Postecoglou needs to start beating the top 10 teams, the top 6 teams, would you like?
Yeah.
If we got over the line against Man City today, and we could take something from Sunday, would you maybe start to change your opinion a little bit on Ange Postecoglou going forward?
Yeah, look, I mean, listen, I can't be a hypocrite. One thing,
because I agree with you. I do agree with the top 10 teams. If we want to win stuff, you got to beat them.
Yeah. Look, I can't be a hypocrite. I can't sit and say one of the reasons that I'm not enamored with him is because of our results against these clubs. Then if they happen, I change. For me, what's more important is we're Spursy. I know we don't like the word, but we are. You know, part of me sits there and thinks, you know what? We could beat City and Villa and everyone will be on a high and then we go and lose to Ipswich. And that's the sort of team we are. What I want to see is definitely got to win the game against Villa. We've got to, because if you don't beat Villa, the gap between Spurs and Villa in the Premier League is already, they're 3 wins above us. And straight away, I think that kills us from a top 4 perspective. And I know that's mad after 10 games, but to make up 3 wins over a season is a lot. More than anything tonight, I want to see the fight. I want to see the passion. However, I'm going to put loads of caveats here to kind of watch my own arse here. I think it all depends. If Man City really do put out a weak team tonight, then there is no excuse. If Man City start putting out loads of 18-year-olds, then there's no excuse. If Man City put out a full-strength team, Man City can beat anyone in the world. So I'm not going to go bananas when we lose. If we lose. But like you said, Dave, I want to see that fight. I want to see the fight. I don't want to see, we've been demolished 5-0 and the high line was in full effect and blah, blah, blah. I want to see a fight. More than any of this, what I want to see is, even if we lose tonight, I want to see us beat Villa. And then after that Villa game, I want to see some consistency, Dave. I agree. Yeah. I want to see consistency, because what our fans have a habit of doing is we win a game like West Ham, like Man United, and we go, oh my God, what a performance. We're brilliant. And then we're shit the next game, i.e. Brighton after Man United, Palace after West Ham. For me, yes, beat Man City or beat Villa, sure. But I then want to see, okay, you got Galatasaray, Ipswich, Fulham. I want to start to see some consistency where we're not winning a game. Oh, that was shit. Winning a game, that was shit. That to me is more important. And if you get that consistency, Dave, the record against the big 6, 7, 8 teams isn't actually as important. But we can't have it both ways. It can't be we're brilliant when we beat West Ham and then we're shit when we beat Brighton, when we lose to Palace. That tells me that we're an average team. I don't think we're great. I don't think we're terrible. But I need consistency for me.
I hear you. I hear you. And look, when you look at Tottenham, it's very frustrating, especially over, Ange Postecoglou's tenure. But I'd argue you could pull out similar patterns on Jose and Conte as well, even though it's a different squad. Is we'll go on a streak like we've seen before that sort of, lost to Crystal Palace, where you can win 7 out of 8. You have a bit of consistency. But then we'll also go on a barren run for a similar period, which undoes all of that. And it's hereditary at Tottenham. We can never just be consistent one way or the other. It's constantly, you'll have 8 ups, 8 downs, and it sort of completely derails what we're doing. Like, for instance, Postecoglou walked in here. He had a good run of 10 games. We were piss poor for a while. We had that run when Richarlison came back into the team. Then we were piss poor for a while. We started off the season piss poor. We had a good run of games. We're sort of coming back down again. And this is where I get a little bit confused. And this is where I do think Postecoglou is trying to change the mentality at Tottenham Hotspur, but he can't do that on his own. That he has to be helped by the people above to start developing route lists. He can't be ruthless towards these players if the board are going to give them a get out of jail free card every single time things get tough, which I feel like they do to a lot of managers at Tottenham Hotspur. They sort of sat down as soon as they try to get tough and implement things with the players and say, look, this isn't acceptable at Tottenham. But I do think when it comes to Tottenham, like, there's evidence to say if we can find that leadership and we can become a bit more consistent, there's a lot of good to be able to build off Postecoglou. But I also see the other side of the argument where it's like, yeah, but these down periods, they do run for a little while as well. And, you know, does it make us, are we an average team? Are we ever really going to kick on? So I actually understand it from both point of views. I just wish wish the players would decide what they want to do, what they want to be. Do you want to go on a run, or do you want to sack this man off? Just decide.
Do you know what, though? For me, I do think that the Europa League has kind of masked over the poor job that's happening. If I'm brutally honest, this is only my opinion. When we look and we say, 6 out of 7 wins or whatever it is, when it's Coventry, Karabag, Ferencvaros, and AZ Alkmaar, yes, you can only beat who's in front of you, but they are wins that I expect any manager to pick up. For me, I want to see this consistency in the league, and unfortunately, Dave, when you look at the league table, like 4 defeats from our opening 9 games is really poor. Now, that doesn't matter whether that's Fred Smith in charge. It doesn't matter whether it's Jane Doe, Ange Postecoglou, Carlo Ancelotti. 4 defeats from your first 9 games. It's not acceptable for a team that want to progress. That is stagnant. So for me, I agree with you that we've got to stop that. We have. For me, I think for that to change, we need to see better in-game management. Like you said, against Palace, I think we could all see what wasn't working, and then he sends them out the second half exactly the same. That's where I want to see, right, okay, let's
in-game management is a bit like that as well, though, isn't it? Like West Ham, no one would have took off or took off Madison, brought on Sarr, worked an absolute treat. But then you look at the Palace game, pulled off both number 10s when you're looking for a goal. Yeah. You know, it's sort of the in-game management is a bit up and down as well, I would argue.
I completely agree. But this is the whole thing. For me, the whole club is we're not doing that and we're not doing that. We're that. The club is that for me. And what I mean by that is to get that consistency, to stop being so up and down. I think you need better players. I think I do. I think the problem is we've seen Basuma for years now. He's erratic. We've seen Bentancur for years now. He's up and down. You know, we've seen Maddison. He's up and down. We've seen Kulu. He's up and down. We know what Solanke is. We bought him off the back of one good year in his career. When you buy these types of players, fans can do all these videos they want, Dave, to say why this player's perfect, that player's perfect. There's a reason why they're cheap. There's a reason why they're not on these massive wages. There's a reason why they're coming from, no offense, but we always sign from Everton, from Bournemouth. You know, there's a reason these players are at this level because they're inconsistent. And for me, this comes back full circle to what we started with. It's all well and good talking about growing and building leaders, but if you don't go and buy them, I don't see how things change. And this, for me, was a really quick fix in the summer. 2 or 3 senior pros, 2 or 3 kids coming in at the same time. I think Spurs are a shoo-in for top 4, but we didn't. And that's why when people go, what? You predicted 7th? Yeah, because I do think we're that, Dave. I do think that. And listen, Dave, I'm older and uglier than you are, mate. But you
don't know about uglier, but you know,
you've seen this before. I've seen this before. Nothing that's happening at the moment makes me think this is different to anything I've seen before at Tottenham. And that's why I don't get on the bandwagon. That's why I don't lose my mind. It's why you won't see me praising because we beat Man U 3-0. But listen, I want to round this off with asking you a question, Dave.
Yeah.
What can Spurs achieve this year? Now, I'll ask you this regularly every sort of 5-10 games. The goalposts move. Do you think we can get top 4? And do you think that a trophy is likely?
Do you know, I have mixed feelings on this because, look, Premier League, I'll be honest, I don't really care about it this year, Savva. You know, we don't really do much in it. Don't get me wrong. I obviously don't want to fall into the bottom half of the table. You know, obviously I would like to finish in one European League. spaces if we can. But when it comes to the Premier League, I don't really care. I just want to lift the trophy at this point. It's been so long. But again, when it comes to the cup competitions, okay, I think we'll go deep in them. But you're going to come up against a big team at some point. Do we have the leadership to drag us over the line or handle the big occasion? Not quite sure. Do we have the right players in terms of potency going forward and solidity at the back in a game where it requires that to have it? Do we have that in us? Not quite so sure. So I think ultimately it could be a large frustrating one where I think we could go deep in cup competitions. Might even well get it together in the league. Who knows? But ultimately, I think what we didn't do in the summer is going to come back to bite us when we do get to that point.
Dave, do you know what? I know. I feel like over the years we've sort of got a bit closer in our football opinions to where we started. Listen, I completely agree with you. I think, you know, when people are talking about the Europa League, and we can all do that thing where we look on paper and go, "Oh, there's no one there we shouldn't beat." But what we don't take into account is, during this league phase, I fully expect us to sail through. I fully expect us to go through.
Top eight.
What we don't take into account is like what you just said, Dave. You know, when you're in February, March, you're deep into a competition and you've got the second leg away from home at Lyon, Galatasaray, Man United. These big games away from home in a Europa League game and it's tight, it's 0-0, there's 15 minutes to go. You're right. Have we got the leaders that can steady people and say, hang on, see this through? Have we got the manager that says, right, you know what? For the next 20 minutes, sit tight. Don't go gung-ho. Don't play the high. Have we got that in the squad? That's the question mark. I don't think so. I'll be really happy to be proved wrong, Dave. I'll be really happy. But that's why I don't look at cup competitions and go, oh, there's no one good in the Europa League. We're going to win it. Well, okay. Those other clubs will be looking at Spurs and saying the same thing, saying, well, they've not won anything for years. They collapse. So, you know, when we go to Lazio on a Thursday night and you've got Son and Romero are both injured, or, you know what I mean? Son and Vicario are both out. All of us, where's your leaders? Yeah. Who's dragging you over that game in Italy with a really tough crowd and all the flares? And that's what I want to see. So look, Dave, we all want what's best for Spurs. We all want to see us. Whether we get there or not, who knows?
I just want to caveat something quickly. Of course, January window could come along. Tottenham, not saying they will. Tottenham might surprise many people, do something, and then my opinion could change off the back of that, saying, do you know what? I think we've done enough. When these come around, we might be able to. But look, until then, if I'm going off the summer business, I'm just not sure we've done enough to do what Postecoglou wants, which is to challenge for titles. And ultimately, I do think he's been let down. But look, we do have to have a conversation another day about Ange Postecoglou moving forward, you know, about the project and stuff like that. See where Savva's at, see where myself is at. But I've really enjoyed this one today, Savva. Thank you.
Yeah, no, look, at the end of the day, look, I think this is the key thing, Dave. There's too much on YouTube where everyone thinks that if you disagree with someone that they're your enemy and you hate them. And look, you and I have got different opinions on stuff, but when you actually whittle it down, we meet in the middle and realize all we want is to see a grown man do this with a piece of silverware in 2025. That's what we want. We have different ideas of what that looks like. And everyone knows I don't rate Ange. You rate Ange. I don't turn around and go, oh, I'm never going to stream with Dave because he doesn't agree with me. But look, onwards and upwards to tonight. Enjoy your streams. And I always look forward to, I see you on these fan reaction shows where people go and score or not. And your reactions are always really forlorn. Like it really cuts you deep and stuff. So I enjoy watching them. But look, everybody in the chat, please, you know where to find Dave. The Irish Hotspur, please get over, support Dave, support Jack. Great lads. And a big thank you for me to everybody. We hit 14K last night. So onwards and upwards to the 15K. I will be giving away 2 tickets in tonight's show to Tottenham v Ipswich. I'm such a horrible person, but I'm giving away 2 tickets to Tottenham v Ipswich. Some might see that as a crime, but surely a home win for that game. So join me live tonight. Dave, enjoy your streams today. And as always, come on.
Come on, you
You
Spurs.